Hey everybody, this is Strict 9 with Strict 9 GP, and welcome to another episode of my Out of the Park Baseball 19 GM Challenge with the Reds. We're in the offseason now. We're just to the point where we're going to start the Hall of Fame voting, which I thought I would maybe spend a little bit of time going through. This will be the Hall of Fame class for 2019, I guess you'd say. The last episode we ended up, of course, we lost the division series to the Dodgers. The Dodgers went on to win the World Series. And I've simmed ahead through all the awards and arbitration and started free agency. And what I want to do this episode is I've already made a couple of offers in free agency. We'll go over that. And then we'll also hopefully get up to the winter meetings and, if we have time, go through the Rule 5 draft. But I just want to start out with the awards, kind of give a highlight of how those turned out. We didn't really have too much happen in terms of the awards. I think the only guy who may have had a chance at an award was Senzel in the Rookie of the Year category, but he didn't have enough plate appearances due to that injury late in the season. But we did, under the Gold Glove category, we did have a couple. Tucker Barnhart, a catcher, this was his second, and Billy Hamilton won at center, and this is his first. So a couple good choices there from the team. Relievers of the year went to Andrew Miller at Cleveland, who had a great year for them. He was their closer in this playthrough, and just 34 saves, 1.25 ERA. Awesome year for him. And then in the American League, or National League, sorry, it was Tyler Lyons for the Cardinals. And like they sometimes do in this playthrough, a lot of times I think it depends on the wins above replacement. And for a reliever, Lyons had a 2.6 wins above replacement. That's pretty good for a reliever, but he wasn't the closer. He put in a lot of appearances, a lot of strikeouts per 9 innings, and a low 1.82 ERA. Excuse me. Kenley Jansen finished second, and I think he led the league. He did in saves. But, well, I say that the wins above replacement is the main category, but he was at 2.8, so I'm not sure why they gave it to Lyons. I have noticed that, though, sometimes if you let the AI choose the award winners, sometimes they'll just go with a reliever who has good numbers, not necessarily closer only. But we didn't have anyone else who showed up in that list, but I thought it was interesting. The Mets had 3 players here in the top 6, so they had a good bullpen. That was probably why they made the playoffs this year. And then I did go through and fill up my personnel for the minors, so that's what some of these messages are here. For the Platinum Stick Award winners, I don't think we had anybody there. Matt Olson had a great year, 50-plus home runs. He was first base in the American League. Mike Trout, center field. Mookie Betts and Benintendi, Lindor. Lucroy had a decent year at catcher. And then in the National League, Bellinger, of course, 57 home runs. He got denied first. Buster Posey. A lot of names you'd expect to see here. Really no surprises. Bryce Harper, Blackman, maybe Conforto's a little bit of a surprise, but the rest seem to be pretty expected. And then for the Rookie of the Year award, it went to Ohtani in the American League. He was 13-9 with a 4.55 ERA, pretty high. But for his batting statistics, you can see in limited play, he showed a lot of power, 24 home runs in 361 at-bats, 299 average. Pretty good offensive performance from him. And then Cisco was second. In the National League, it wasn't really a surprise. Acuna won for the Braves. He had a great rookie year. I don't know if in real life he's going to put up these kind of numbers, but that is solid for your first year at 20 years old in the majors. That's pretty impressive. Scored over 100 runs, 31 home runs, 98 RBIs, 30 steals, just below 300 for the batting average. Winker, though, did get a nod because I didn't realize that in 2017 he didn't put up enough plate appearances to qualify as a rookie. So this was technically his rookie year, so he finished second. I thought that was pretty good. And then Crawford got some votes there for the Phillies, Minter for the Braves. So at least we did have some people show up. And then skipper of the year, manager of the year, A.J. Hinch at Houston. And then National League went to Dave Roberts. And then for Cy Young, Corey Kluber got it. In the American League, I didn't really think that was too big of a surprise. He led the league in strikeouts, had a good ERA. James Paxton finished second. He had a solid year for Seattle. And then for the National League, it went to Clayton Kershaw. No surprise there. Big surprise, though, you're going to see him in a Mets uniform because I don't know if his real contract includes a buyout player option. But he filed for free agency this year. I thought he was signed for a couple more years with the Dodgers, but maybe there was an option that in this game he decided to take. But he went to free agency and signed really quick with the Mets, $32.5 million for looks like 6 years. So that was a big signing already in free agency. But Syndergaard finished second. Scherzer, who had a solid year, finished fourth. And then for the MVPs, it was Jose Ramirez in the American League for Cleveland. He had a great year, and I didn't really, I guess I didn't pay attention too much to the American League player stats throughout the year, but he was solid this year. 213 hits, 116 runs, 135 RBIs, a 335 average. So he led the league in wins above replacement, average, OPS, slugging, and RBIs. So that was a good pick. Mike Trout finished second. Definitely a solid year for him with a lot of home runs. And it was Lindor, and then Kluber got some votes there too. And then in the National League, it was Cody Bellinger with all those home runs and RBIs. His average was pretty high, 294, but he led the league in home runs, RBIs, and runs, so that was a pretty good choice. Seager finished second. He had a solid year, so he led the league in wins above replacement. So no surprise why the Dodgers had such a good year, but the Mets had several showing up in the vote totals, and so did the Dodgers. I'm sorry. So those two teams had really good years. Now, looking at the arbitration results, we got hit pretty hard on a couple of things. Schebler at $5 million wasn't too bad, but Michael Wacha got way above what he was asking for and what we wanted to give him, or what he was expecting, I guess. We offered $9.75 million. He wound up with $14,375,000, and Scooter Gennett wound up with $11+ million when we had offered him fairly low, and then Hamilton wound up with $9.3 million when we had offered him a little bit better, and it hurt the amount of money that we had available. And the projected budget room right now and the total money available, we have some available, but the projected budget room right now is because of a couple of free agent offers that I've got out there pending, and I'll show you those here shortly. But we're really tight. We're not going to have hardly any money to invest in free agents. And in terms of trades, it's going to be iffy there too. I've already just on a whim, I tried Votto, and one-on-one I got no offers. Scooter Gennett, I tried him just to see. We might have the ability to move Senzel, for instance, to second if it came to it, and Scooter, might be somebody we could offer out there. But I didn't really see much. I might try him again later. But Iglesias, who I really feel like I kind of need in that bullpen, even though he had a little bit of an off year, but he's high at $5 million. Barnhart, I think that's pretty good for the kind of catcher he is. But not a whole lot of salaries that I can trade. And of course, we're still We're still dealing, I think, with the release of Homer Bailey from last year, so that'll carry through at least through 2019. But I'll look at those free agent offers here in a minute, but let's go ahead and take a look at the Hall of Fame voting and see who's coming up this year. And so we got Lance Berkman, who's in his first year, decent career. There's Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, Francisco Cordero, pretty good closer. Not seeing a whole lot. Julio Franco, man, he played for so long. He was 48 years old when he retired. Freddie Garcia, Doc Holliday. He was a two-time Cy Young Award winner. Pretty close on some of these metrics here. I think I'll give him a vote. Todd Helton. I think I'll give him a vote, even though he benefited, I think, from Colorado all those years. Andrew Jones, who did finish with a lot of home runs, just didn't hang on there too long. I mean, by the time he was 30, his production had started to slip. Jeff Kent, who's a guy who I like, I think he had some great years for San Francisco and was a real big part of. I think they had a few good years through that time period. John Lieberthal, Derek Lowe, Edgar Martinez, there's always debate around Edgar Martinez, whether he should be in the Hall of Fame or not. Primarily because, yeah, he played mainly at DH for his career. Had some good years, but I'm going to hold off right now on him. Mike Messina, this is a guy who I always vote for in whatever playthrough, so I'm going to vote for him again. Andy Pettit, not this year. Manny Ramirez, and of course Mariano Rivera. A lot of guys here. Kurt Schilling, Gary Sheffield. I'm going to put Sheffield in there. Miguel Tejada. And I'm Omar Vizquel. I think he was such a good defensive shortstop. He deserves some recognition, and he played a long time, 2,800 hits. That's a pretty big accomplishment. In a lot of ways, and he didn't have power, but he was a consistent and steady offensive performer. I think he deserves some recognition, but probably not going to go with him this year. So that's how we're looking. And so there's some big names there that I skipped over. Roger Clemens for one, Barry Bonds. I'm going to go with what I have here and just see how the AI votes. See if they give those guys more nod than I did. So that'll get that going. And now the free agency that I was talking about. And we all, if you've been following it, of course, you know where my struggles are. It's with that starting pitching. So starting pitching is, as it always is in these playthroughs, it's at such a premium. And you can see, this is my scouts ratings, but there's only 4 pitchers who are rated 3 stars or higher by my scout who are available in free agency. Keuchel, way out of my price range. He's 20 plus million. Drew Pomerantz, 14 million. And I have some questions about his control and movement, so stayed away from him. But I did make an offer for Cole Hamels. And I know he's getting up there in age. He's about 35. But and he had a pretty bad year for Texas. But I still like his numbers overall. My scout likes him. He's got some good personality ratings. I made an offer at, I think it was $10 million a year, $10+ million a year for 3 years. And He's a lefty as well, so I like having that lefty starter in the mix. Um, my worry is that once we progress a little bit further, some other teams are going to get involved and there might be some bidding going on. I'm not going to go any higher than what I've offered him, or at least that's my goal. But if I get him for that right now, I'll be happy with it. And then Lance Lynn, who is not performing to the level he did when he first came into the league with the Cardinals. He's only a 2.5-star pitcher. And yeah, there's some questions about movement and control for him. But he's not wanting a whole lot of money. And one thing that really impressed me a lot about him for the last 2 years, 33 starts in 2017, 31 in last year. So I think he can be a mid-rotation to low rotation starter and would definitely give me some depth. So I gave him an offer of like $4.4 million for 2 years, and still waiting to hear back from him in terms of if he's going to take it or not. But those are the two offers I've got out there. I'm going to ride these a little bit and see if I can sign either of them before I try to make any other offers. And I'm just going to go ahead and sim up to the winter meetings and see how that. So I got Cole Hamels. So Trevor Rosenthal is a relievers out there. San Diego's. Sorry, I get distracted with the messages, the news. So we got a boost in fan interest, and I'm hoping this is not a move that I regret. And of course, if you follow my other series, you know I'm a Phillies fan. So that I don't really think that played into it. I just think he was the best out there at the money that I have available. So that's cool. Logan Forsythe signs with the Angels, and the Dodgers pick up Kimbrel and Brian Dozier. So they're already wanting to repeat. So I'm going to have to add Cole Hamels to the rotation, to the roster, and let's see what that would do right now from Girardi. So Girardi would put him at third in that rotation, behind Castillo and Waka. And Castillo, he did come on strong at the last half of the year, was pitcher of the month in September. I'm hoping he develops a little bit, though, over the offseason. So now let's go forward to the winter meetings. And we got trade proposal already. And Lance Lynn favors our offer. So I really feel like those two moves, I think those two moves would help us out quite a bit, to be honest. Our budget room, though, is slim. So until the offseason next year, we're not going to have much room to do anything. So Toronto would trade me Solarte, who is a pretty good third baseman, can play second, can even play left field. Had a good year last year. He's signed through 2020. It's not a big contract, but they're wanting Blandino and Trammell, and I just cannot see trading Trammell right now. He has so much upside. He's still at Double-A, which is where I'm going to leave him to start the year. But he's just 21, and I'm hoping he's a couple years away from developing. St. Louis picked up A.J. Pollock, big contract there, $92 million. I wonder how long that was for 5 years, looks like. Oakland, Los Angeles, traded Gossett. So we're at the winter meetings. I'm gonna throw a few things out there, and one of the things I'm gonna throw out there is Michael Wacha. Even though, I would say he's probably the best overall pitcher on the team right now, I just want to see if there's something I can get for him. At that salary, it's pretty expensive. So we could get you Darvish. Yeah, not a whole lot here. I'm not seeing any prospects or anything. I'm seeing a lot of high contracts. Um, Colton Wong. I'm not sure in the long run if he would be an upgrade over Jeanette. Here's Willie Calhoun, so there's a prospect, a huge prospect actually. Well, from my scout, he's coming off a great year at AAA, so he looks like he would be ready for the majors if his defense was a little bit more solid. All right, so not that much out there that would benefit me. And for some reason, Senzel's only listed as a third baseman in this playthrough. I think he has some, I think he's playing second for the Reds in their system, but so I want to try Jeanette. I mean, Jeanette has such a high salary, though. I don't know if I would get much for him either. Yeah, it looks like pretty slim pickings here. Guys I don't really necessarily need. And really, I'm just looking primarily at pitching. Not much. I don't really want to trade him for a 2.5 star pitcher at this point. So let me go ahead and sim through the winter meetings, guys. I don't think trades are going to happen this year. I just don't have, unless I want to give up prospects, and I don't really want to do that right now. I'm not going to be able to get that much in trade. So Josh Donaldson went to the Yankees, $26 million over 5 years, and the Red Sox pick up Keuchel. So it's those big teams, looks like, who are getting the big free agents. LeMahieu went with Detroit. Eovaldi went with San Francisco. And Smith for Smith. So Will Smith was traded for Will D. Smith. Man, that was confusing. So now let's go ahead and go up to the Rule 5 draft and see if we might find some sleeper there. Curtis Granderson is still getting the contracts here. $11.6 million a year for 3 years from Tampa Bay. So Philadelphia is going to give me a proposal. Wow. So they would send 32-year-old Jake Arrieta and $6.8 million for Alex Blandino and Taylor Trammell. At this point, I just, of course, you see that contract. I don't think I can afford it anyway, so I'll have to reject that. But that would pretty much be a damaging trade, I think. So what I'm going to do is, this is something I always do, really. When I get to the Rule 5 draft, I go into the draft pool, which usually when it's time, it'll show up here in the main menu under the MLB. I change the view to default, which just looks at player names and team and where they're Little League and whatnot first. And then I sort by team. And then I go through usually my high team. So I've got Dayton, Daytona, Pensacola, and Louisville. So I just look and make sure there's nobody in here that I'm in danger of losing. So we'll need to start out with Dayton and Daytona. And let's see, Dayton, a couple 1.5 stars, but Mitch Pianic, no, I'm sorry, Winnington Romero, who's a relief pitcher. Why did I do that? So, nah, I mean he's 2-pitch pitcher. He's got some potential, but I could probably afford to lose him if it came to it. And then Daytona, I've got a couple 1.5 star potential, so nothing really major there. So now we'll look at Louisville and then Pensacola. And yeah, I've got a few things here that might be risky. Mainly Evan Mitchell, who has some development to go. His stuff is not there yet, but he's got some pretty good potential there. I'm going to put him on the 40 because I just really can't afford to lose too much pitching depth. And then Tanner Rainey, who's a guy I called up from Pensacola in the offseason. This guy's got great stuff. His pitches look really good. He's just got to improve his control a little bit. I'm also going to put him on the 40 as well for now, just so I don't lose him in the draft. It says he can play first base. I wonder what his ratings are batting wise. Nah, not that great. And so anybody else at Louisville, a few depth players here in the rotation pitching staff, but nothing too crazy there. So now Pensacola. Yeah, I got a few here. Man, this is I don't really want to do this, but I can't afford to lose Shedrick Long. He's a potential 4-star guy, and didn't have a bad year at Pensacola. I may call him up if he starts out hot, but I'm going to have to put him on the 32 as well, or 40-man, I'm sorry. And just, I may try to move him off before spring training, but we'll see how that plays out too. And then anybody else? Jose Siri. I just moved him up from Daytona because he's had a couple of really good years here in the minors, but I'm not going to put him on the 40-man. I'm gonna risk it, but he's not quite ready for the majors, so it would be a real gamble, I think, for somebody drafting him. And then I got a 2.5-star guy here, pitcher, but I think that's it. I don't think I'm going to lose too much going that route. And so let's go ahead now and start the draft. And we're going to be drafting pretty low, 23rd, after that good year that we had. But let's see if there's something out there. We'll look at, just put it on batting ratings, and we're going to auto draft until our pick. So no, we're not going to see much here. Some 2-star pitchers, but let me just look at it by pitchers and by starters. Yeah, nothing really crazy there. Tanner Scott, this guy has really good everything except control. It's way down there. Armentaro, if his movement was better, he has some pretty good ratings there as well. But you know, with the waiver or with the Rule 5 draft, I would have to keep him on that roster if I wanted to keep him. I mean, I would either have to keep him on the active roster or let him go or DFA him. So I'm not seeing anything there. Let's see about relievers. You know, not too much. I mean, what I really look for, and I was kind of mentioning this, a subscriber asked a question about my draft strategies and things like that, and he was kind of wanting to know what I kind of looked at primarily. It's simple, but for me, I think the game gives you all the data and a pretty good presentation of it. So I look for the balance and the colors, and by that I'm saying on a 20 rating, if I'm wanting a player who, say, I want a guy who's got some speed, well, for me, I'm looking at 15 or above, say, on speed. Pitching, especially relievers, you want somebody with a lot of stuff. Then you're looking at these green numbers, green and above, and especially blue is usually good for short relievers like setup guys and closers. If their stuff is pushing up there to the max, that's something that's really good to look for. And again, it's color coded. I would look for the blue, which is going to be the best. And that's primarily the first thing I look for, but then I look for balance. And if they are green in all three, stuff, movement, control, I'll give them a look. And that's green and above, I should say. If they've got yellow, red, orange, however you say it, in any of these categories, I usually pass on them unless, of course, if we're talking about in the draft, I mean potential ratings. These are actual ratings. If it's actual ratings for free agents and guys in this Rule 5 draft and waiver wire, I'm typically looking for that kind of balance. Guys who are rated green or better in all the primary metrics or primary ratings, unless there's some exceptions, of course. If you're looking for a good defensive backup infielder, for instance, and power's not that big of a deal, maybe you'll look at contact, speed, and defense at their position. So whatever you're kind of looking for, but I think the whole draft system and player search and all these features that Out of the Park Baseball has, I think they've done a really good job making it easy to manage and to kind of at a quick glance see what you're looking at. Because otherwise, I mean, just look at this is just a Rule 5 draft. You can see how many players you'd have to wade through. But it looks like I'll look at batters just for the heck of it. And it looks like, though, I'm not going to have anything to pick up here. Alberto, yeah, if he had a little bit better defensive ratings, position ratings, I might consider him as a platoon or a bench player. But that's it. So I'm just going to have to complete the draft and realize I'm not gonna have any sleeper picks there. But and of course, I think we did lose Jose Rafael Lopez, who was that guy at Pensacola. I'm sorry, Louisville. I could probably afford to lose him, even though I'd need pitching depth. I just didn't like his stuff and movement. You can see he's in the yellow. A little bit of opportunity to grow at stuff, but that movement's scary. I think in the majors he's probably going to get hammered a lot, give up a lot of home runs. So that's probably where I'll end this episode. I'm going to let it play through. I'm going to see if I can pick up Lynn, and if I can't, I may try to pick up another either reliever or starter. I feel like if you look at off-season summary by team, we haven't done too bad so far. We picked up 1.5 wins above replacement because we haven't really lost too many who we could afford to lose. Of course, Suzuki retired, but I gave up a few pitchers here who a couple pitchers who weren't doing that great, and so I didn't lose much. So I feel like if we can sign Lynn, I think that would be a big help to our starting rotation, which right now would be, I think if Castillo develops, if Molly develops. I mean, Molly pitched well enough to get 13 wins last year, but his movement scares me. I hope that he goes up a little bit in the off season. But I think already going into next season, this rotation would be a lot better than what I started. And if I could get Lynn, I think it would be solid, but I think it would allow us to compete. And then, of course, the big question is going to be, can that offense repeat? I mean, there are some guys here who had years that I may not see again. Billy Hamilton, for instance. Winker looks to be pretty solid offensively, but it's hard to say. And then Senzel, got to hope that he stays healthy for the most part. Shabler, it's going to be hard to see if he's going to repeat on that too. He's still got a lot of power, good defender, but his contact rating is low, and or at least from my scout. So he could repeat, but hard to say. But that'll be it. I'll probably go ahead and finish the off season and start out spring training on the next episode and see how we look there. But thanks for watching. Hope you like it, and I will see you next episode.